Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to NACDA's latest session, virtual programming session. We've had over 200 hours of these sessions since May. And before I go any farther, I'd like to thank Katie Newman and Dana Leroy for all they've done on putting these together. I mean, I know all of our affiliate managers have done a great job also, but those two have really carried the water as far as these are concerned. And I know from the notes we have gotten from most of you that you're really enjoying what we're doing, and we've really tried to make them as pertinent to the various industry obstacles and industry topics that are out there. But today, after all we've been through with COVID and the elections and furloughs and everything, we thought we'd go a little different direction. We thought we would go a direction to bring someone in who can motivate us, who can just give us a different perspective on life and everything that we're doing. And maybe we can just pause, turn off all the noise, and really focus for the next hour on really what's important. And I'd like to thank Paul Berrettini. When I reached out to Paul, who's a co-founder of 5 Point Communications, and told him what we were looking for, he strongly suggested our speaker today. And I'm so glad he did, because Alex has really been a joy to work with. We're thrilled to have him with us today, Alex Montoya, who is undoubtedly a beacon of hope and is someone who has overcome more obstacles than many of us can fathom. His inspirational message of strength, hope, and resiliency is one to be admired and can give us the uplifting boost that we so desperately need in times like these. Alex is an award-winning motivational author and speaker, and most importantly, he's one of us. In 2015, and over a decade of working in sports and business, specifically for the San Diego Padres, Montoya created A Motivational Communications, where he specializes in speaking, motivational writing, and consulting. A current consultant to many sports franchises, Montoya is an accomplished individual with many accolades, most notably carrying the U.S. Olympic torch for the 1996 Olympics in Atlanta and receiving a Medal of Honor from the Colombian government. He is the author of 8 published books and has spoken nationwide at places like Google, NASA, Harvard, Wells Fargo, the United States Hispanic Leadership Institute, and the Ford Motors Ford Driving Dreams Tour. An immigrant from Medellin, Colombia, Montoya earned a bachelor's degree from the University of Notre Dame, and then went on to obtain a master's degree in sports management from the University of San Francisco. He also holds a personal development certification from Harvard. There's much more to know about Alex, but I'll leave it to him to further explain. Now, before we begin, I'd like to cover a couple housekeeping items. As you'll note, this is a little bit different than the traditional Zoom webinars that we've delivered in the past. In this Zoom meeting format, all attendees will have the ability to share their video and will be asked to do so to interact with Alex during the course of the session. To prevent any unnecessary interference, all attendee lines have been automatically muted upon entry into the meeting. But as an additional safeguard, please make sure the mute button on your Zoom toolbar in the lower left corner is switched to the audio off position. To ensure you are properly focused on Alex and the message he has to share, we would recommend that you set your Zoom view to speaker view. You can set this preference in the upper right corner of your Zoom window. Finally, we will have a few minutes at the end of Alex's presentation today to take a couple of audience questions. If you have a question, please send it directly to AD NACDA in the chat feature, and Katie Newman on our staff will help to moderate the questions at the end of the session. Well, that's all I have. I'm going to turn it over to the expert. Alex, it's all yours. Take it away.
Okay. Wow. Thank you so much, Bob. And thank you so much to NACDA and Katie and for everyone for inviting me. I am so incredibly blessed to be here today. Thank you to all of you. I know that everyone is really busy and has a lot of things going on. So I truly, genuinely appreciate you giving your time to us and hopefully enjoying yourself today and walking away feeling a little bit uplifted by the end of this. I also want to send a shout out to Alan Green, my former classmate at Notre Dame, who is now the AD at Auburn, for helping to connect us and along with Paul Berrettini and saying some very kind words about me on the promo spot. If you've been following the elections this week nationally, you see that athletic directors from Auburn tend to do pretty good things in life after they leave. So I know Alan will as well. So thank you, Alan. Thank you, Paul. And again, I'm just thankful that everybody is here today. Now, before we begin, you may have noticed that one of the directions that we gave to each audience member was that we are asking for your camera to remain on, at least in the beginning, the very beginning portion of this talk, because I'm going to ask you to do a very quick exercise with me. Follow along. If you can, I'm going to ask each one of you to please raise your left arm. Your left arm. Okay, there we go. I see people doing it. All right, keep that arm in the air. There you go. I see you, Loretta. Okay. Okay, raise your left arm. Keep it up. Can you also please, if you can, raise your right arm? Raise your right arm. Okay, there you go. Now, I know we're all seated here. This is a little bit of NACDA yoga. If you can you please also raise your right leg? Your right leg. There you go. I see some shifting going on. I know people are doing it. All right. Deep breath. Okay, go ahead. Put them down. All right. Felt good, right? Get the blood flowing, get the blood pumping. Well, the reason that I had you raise your left arm, your right arm, and your right leg is to demonstrate that those three things that you just raised, I was actually born without. So when we talk about adversity and when we talk about challenges and we talk about overcoming challenges in life, I've had a pretty good idea of what that has meant. My name is Alex Montoya, and I'm coming to you this morning in San Diego from beautiful San Diego, California. I am an author, I am a speaker, I am a business owner, and I am also a triple amputee. In 1974, I was born in Medellin, Colombia, and I had a rare birth defect that led me to be born missing those three limbs, my left arm, my right arm, and my right leg. All I had was my left leg that I was born with. And I saw very quickly that my life was going to be one of adversity and challenges, and my life was going to be very different than the journey that most people were going to take. Especially when at that time in Colombia, there weren't a whole lot of services available for people with disabilities. So if you had any kind of disability, there was no special education, there were no services to kind of help you advance in life, whether it be medically or education wise, to fulfill your dreams. Well, when I was 4 years old, a great miracle occurred within my family in that I had the opportunity to move to the United States, courtesy of an organization called the Shriners Hospitals. And the Shriners were going to give my family a chance for me to have prosthetics. And what I'm going to do now is actually raise up my arms so that you see my two prosthetic arms. And I also have a prosthetic leg. And I'll never forget, it was such a um, new development and such a surprise that we had this opportunity and that this was really going to give me a second lease on life, that my mom sat me down and she said, I want you to realize what a grand opportunity this is specifically for you. We already had some family in the States and we had, some family in Colombia, some family in the US. So we were kind of familiar, with the transition to a new country. But for me specifically, she said, this is going to be something that opens up a whole new world for you. You are going to have to learn a new language because at that point I only spoke Spanish. You are going to have to get used to the fact that people will be looking at you and staring at you wherever you go, because you're going to be something very different to them. And you're going to have more challenges than most people have within their lives. Most people in this world, of course, are not triple amputees. She said, but I want you to know that no matter what the challenges are, no matter what the adversity is, no matter what sort of hardship you have, even though it might seem like it's impossible, I want you to know that in this great country, in the United States, anything is possible. Anything is possible. But she emphasized this. She said, there are three things that you'll need to have with you at all times. There are three things you'll need to have with you at all times. Number one, you need to have a positive attitude about anything that life throws your way. Your attitude will determine your altitude. So have a strong attitude about your challenges. Number two, don't focus on what you're missing, focus on what you have. Don't focus on what you're missing in life, focus on what you have. Because she knew that even though I was born missing my three limbs, I was about to receive prosthetic limbs. I was about to receive limbs that allowed me to hold things and grab things and walk and be able to get around for the first time in my life. And then finally, number three, she said, you need to have something that you're passionate about, something that keeps you inspired, something that keeps you going every single day. Well, I quickly saw after I moved to the US that passion for me was athletics. It was sports. I loved being able to follow every single sport out there. I saw that it was a major part of American culture. I saw that that's what people talked about. I saw that that's what people were passionate about. And I quickly got myself into sports. Even though I really couldn't play team sports, I enjoyed following it. I enjoyed talking about it. I enjoyed being the broadcaster at all my friends' games. Sports became that main passion within my life. And I knew that was going to be what kept me inspired. As I like to say, if it bounced, I watched it. Basketball, football, baseball, soccer, you name it. I knew that sports was the way to go. From sports, I also drew this parallel. I saw that here I was in this fantastic new country, and I had this great new opportunity, and I had an opportunity that I previously didn't have, and all of a sudden, the impossible became possible. And I realized there was a parallel within one of the sports that I quickly had embraced, which was baseball, and that was to swing for the fences. You know, in baseball, they say swing for the fences, try to hit a home run. Don't just try to hit a single, don't just try to hit a light hit, swing for the fences. And I saw that this country gave me the opportunity to do that. Let me explain for you real quick regarding my prosthetics. My prosthetics, my arms, are connected to me through a strap harness on my back. And whichever way I move my shoulders actually moves the right strap to pull on a cable that I have here connected to my thumb. And whichever way I move my shoulder will actually move the hook so that it motions. And I move my shoulder in the opposite direction and it'll move the elbow. And then with my prosthetic leg, when I press down on it, it actually will help stabilize me so that I can walk on it normally. This technology, this brand new opportunity opened up a whole new world for me, to where even when people would look at me just as my mom had predicted, and they would stare at me and they would point and they would ask questions, some of them would even come up to me and they would say, oh, you poor thing, you poor thing, you have no arms, you only have one leg, you have to wear these prosthetics. To which I would respond, no, I get to wear these prosthetics. I get to wear these things that give me freedom. Because it showed me that life is all about your perspective. Life is all about living in gratitude. Life is all about having an attitude of gratitude towards everything you have. So whereas where most other people saw prosthetics and they saw challenges, I saw freedom. I saw liberation. I saw opportunity. And I knew that with that, I could swing for the fences. I could have any goal within my life. I could have any goal within my vision, and that I could accomplish those things because of what I now finally had. I'm proud to tell you that I became the first in my family to graduate from college. I attended the University of Notre Dame. Go Irish. I'm proud to tell you that in my time at Notre Dame in 1996, I was selected to carry the Olympic torch when the games were held here in the United States in Atlanta in 96. I'm proud to tell you that I pursued my dreams, one of them being to work in sports and work in athletics professionally for the San Diego Padres, Major League Baseball club. And I say all this to you not to brag, not to boast, not to read you my resume, not to try to impress you, but to impress upon you that anything is possible. That no matter what limitations you have, the only limitations that you have are the ones that you set on yourself. That if you have an attitude of gratitude, living in gratitude daily, if you focus on what you have and not on what you're missing, and if you have something in life that you're really passionate about, and especially being sports, especially being athletics, those three things will help you overcome anything, anything at all in this world, any challenges that you might have. And sometimes the greatest challenge isn't necessarily great hardship, but all of the little things that we have to do every single day. Sometimes it's easy to lose focus on all the great things that we have within our roles because we have budgets, we have meetings, we have responsibilities. But now, with the new challenges within our world, all of those challenges get even more heightened. All of that adversity gets even more heightened. But if you stick to those three things, I'm here to tell you, you can accomplish anything, anything whatsoever. Well, for a good 10 years, I enjoyed a thriving career with the Padres. Out here in San Diego, we, of course, are along the United States Mexico border. And so that provided a great opportunity for us to specifically do outreach and marketing to the Latino community. That was my job. That was my responsibility, was to reach out to the Latino community and make sure they were involved in all of our endeavors, all of our activations, every sort of club initiative that we had. Within that time, I also had um, a side passion, a passion project in which I wanted to tell my story, tell my story of immigrating to this country, and really be able to show people what they could accomplish if they set their mind to it. After about 10 years, I decided that I wanted to pursue that passion a little more. And so I started a new chapter within my life and created my own business. And everything that I saw that my mom had originally said was absolutely true. She celebrated with me every little step along the way. In fact, for me, one of the greatest memories that I had was the day that I got my job with the Padres and coming home and finding that she had two beers ready to crack open, one for me, one for her, to celebrate that I could finally achieve my dream of working in sports. And every single step, she would remind me, you're only going to go as far as your attitude. You're only going to go as far as the gratitude that you have. And then no matter what, if you focus on what you have and not on what you're missing, you can continue to go even further. Keep pursuing that passion. For 10 great years, I was able to put all of those things into motion. Well, in 2015, I decided to start a new endeavor and start telling this story and start getting the word out about my journey. But I knew there were going to be a lot of tough steps along the way. I knew there was going to be a lot of adversity along the way. And certainly, as there is with starting any business, there is. You have a lot of peaks, you have a lot of valleys, you have a lot of adversity in starting out in a new pathway. A couple years later, I had another tremendous setback in which my mom passed away. She went to be with the Lord and went to be with heaven. So all of a sudden, my biggest cheerleader was no longer there. And obviously, it hurt very much. It hurt very much that my biggest support, my biggest cheerleader in the whole world now was no longer with us. And I knew that my journey was going to be even harder. Fast forward now to 2020 and all the challenges that we have faced within our world and within our country. And after getting my business going and getting it set up and having some early success and really feeling like I had laid a good foundation, all of a sudden we weren't allowed to be in groups anymore. We were um, prevented from having meetings and having conferences, which was a great setback to my business overall. On top of all that, this summer, in the summer of 2020, I incurred a foot injury. So now one of the main things that I was the happiest about, lived in gratitude about every single day, the fact that I could wear a prosthetic leg and walk freely and even do things like run marathons and have a very fit lifestyle. All of a sudden, because of my foot injury, I couldn't even wear my prosthetic. I couldn't even walk around. It was truly for me rock bottom. It was truly a place where I didn't know. And again, as I had mentioned, my biggest cheerleader was no longer there to kind of push me along. However, her words stayed with me. I thought about everything that she had said from the moment that I was getting ready to move into this new country throughout all of my life and all of my career. Maintain a positive attitude of gratitude. Focus on what you have, not on what you're missing, and focus on the things that make you the most passionate. So I thought about that and I thought, well, now that my business is struggling, now that I have a physical injury and really can't get along as well as I could before, how do I put those words into effect? How do I put those principles into effect to be able to do positive things with these challenges? And I sat back and I realized, well, if you're going to focus on what you have and not on what you're missing, if there's something that all of us have in abundance during this pandemic, is time, especially in the early months of the pandemic. We all seem to have a lot of time. So I said, okay, even though I can't give presentations to live audiences anymore, the one thing that I can do with all of this time is to write, is to sit and write. So over the summer, I sat down and I actually published two books. I'm going to hold up for you one of the books right now, there for the screen. Hopefully you can see it. And it's called Alex Masters the Monkey Bars. And it's centered around a story that I experienced in childhood that I'd like to relay for you right here. First of all, I had never tried anything like writing a children's book. It was a brand new endeavor. It was a brand new experience. But I thought if there was any year to just try something new and not be afraid to um, push the envelope and test yourself and test what you can do, it's 2020. So I said, why don't I take a crack at writing my first children's book? And I produced Alex Masters the Monkey Bars. Now, the whole story of Alex Masters the Monkey Bars is this. One day, when I was still very new to this country and very new to having my prosthetics, I had a group of friends that invited me to join them on the playground on the monkey bars. Now, I still didn't know if that was something that I could do. I didn't know if my prosthetics could work in that sort of way to allow me to engage in that sort of activity. And I said, oh, I don't think I can. I don't think that's something that I can physically do. And I remember I had about 10 of my schoolmates, 10 friends that were there with me. And about five of them said, yeah, you're probably right. It's a little risky. It's a little tough. It's a little bit kind of beyond your comfort zone. Like, probably not a good idea. But then I had five other friends that said, you know what? We invited you to come out here with us. We invited you to have a good time with us. Let's give it a shot. Let's come up with a plan. Let's figure out a way. What if, what if we take your left leg and we put all your weight on the left leg and we drag your prosthetic leg up the ladder? And what if we take your hooks and we clamp them onto the bars, and that way you can hold onto the bars securely and you start climbing the monkey bars? And I quickly learned that those are the two greatest words in the English language, what if? Because when you think in terms of what if, you think in terms of possibility, you think in terms of what you can do instead of what you can't do. And I said, you're right. I said, you're right. What if we give this a good shot? So we took my left leg, put all my weight on there, dragged my prosthetic leg up, took my hooks, put them on the rungs of the ladder, put them up, climbed, 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 climbed. And all of a sudden, we all realized this was happening. This was actually happening. This was something that there was a reality, and I was doing it. And this was no longer just a vision. This was true. I was actually climbing up the monkey bars, and I'm climbing, and I'm climbing, and I'm climbing, and I'm climbing. And all the kids at that point, the ones that said that I could do it, and the ones that said that I couldn't do it, they're yelling, they're cheering, they're whistling. Girls are inviting me to prom. I mean, it was just crazy. It was just absolutely nuts. So I'm climbing and I'm climbing and I'm climbing. But all of a sudden, I got to the top of the monkey bars and realized we had spent so much time thinking about getting to the top that I hadn't thought about the fact I needed to get across the monkey bars. So I said, that's okay. Just take my strap harness, raise it a little bit higher. I can raise my arms a little bit higher, and I'm going to go across, 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 across. When all of a sudden, we heard the worst sound that you'd want to hear at that moment, which was the school bell. It was the school bell. And all my friends ran away. They all ran away from the scene. They ran to the left, they ran to the right, they all left. And I'm still up here on the monkey bars. And I thought to myself, wow, I'm in quite a situation now. What am I going to do? So I decided to just wait and hang on and hold on for a few minutes. And then the teacher finally came out and she said, Alejandro Montoya Gonzalez, you know you're in trouble when they say all three names. She said, Alejandro Montoya Gonzalez, what are you doing? I said, hey, I'm just hanging around. How about you? And she laughed and she helped me down. But it taught me a confirmation of the three things that I mentioned earlier. Number one, I wouldn't have tried something like climbing the monkey bars if I didn't have a positive attitude about it. If I didn't have an attitude that, yes, this is something that I can do. If I didn't have that can do attitude within me. And it's the same within our roles. Any sort of challenge we take on, any sort of project, anything the world throws at us, as long as we have a can do attitude, we can accomplish it. Number two, to always focus on what you have and not on what you're missing. It was very daunting to think that I could get up there and do that, but I realized that I had a good left leg that I could put all my weight on. I have my prosthetic arms that I could hold on very securely. And I also have my friends around to cheer and support. And of course, in a group like ours, this is a very, very important aspect of being able to support each other and cheer each other on through all of our challenges. No matter what adversities you face, no matter what shortfalls you may face, no matter what challenges you may have, always focus on what you have instead of what you're missing. Always come from a perspective of what you have instead of what you're missing. And then you can begin to get the job done. And then finally, I knew that what was going to keep me safe and keep me hanging on until somebody came out and helped me was just the belief, the belief and the passion that I had for life, and the belief that a teacher would come out and help me, which indeed she did. And it's the same with us working within the field of sports. Never lose sight of the belief of what you're doing. Never lose sight of why you got involved in athletics to begin with. Sports teaches us so much, and we get involved in sports because not only are we passionate as fans, but we know that athletics develops leaders. We know that athletics have an impact on communities. Sports is fun, it promotes fitness, it promotes education, it teaches us so much about ourselves and about leadership. And we know of all of the good we're doing in this world through sports, especially in a country that's so divided. Sports is what unifies. Sports is still the last unifying factor in this country that brings us all together. And we should never lose sight of that. We should never lose sight of the fact that we are involved in the profession or the field or the world that is really and truly bringing people together. And I'm so glad that that monkey bars experience taught me that and confirmed those lessons, because they were lessons I knew that I would need for the remainder of my life. So, as I mentioned, I was so proud to be able to write that children's book over the summer and write about that particular adventure. I was also proud to create a charitable foundation over the summer, which I'll talk a little more about in a few minutes. But it's all about focusing on what you have and not on what you're missing. Life is all about focusing on what you have, even when the great challenges come, even when the great adversities come, knowing that you have what it takes to overcome all of these things. Knowing that sometimes when life seems to be the most impossible, you have what it takes to make anything possible. Make anything possible whatsoever. It all begins by waking up each day and just being thankful for this great opportunity we have and this great country that we live in. If a boy from Medellin, Colombia, born missing three of his limbs, can come to this country and make his dreams come true, why can't you? Why can't you? There is no adversity great enough. There is no challenge great enough to stop us if we really believe in what we're doing. If we have a positive attitude, if we live in gratitude, if we focus on what we have and not on what we're missing, and if we maintain the passion that keeps us inspired, not only can we have a successful career, but we can change the world through athletics. We can do anything. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate everyone being here today. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Alex, for sharing your story. Just a reminder to folks, and you probably saw this in your chat feature, but we have some time for questions. So please feel free to submit those in the chat feature directly to me via AD NACDA. So Alex, we do have one question that has come in already. We all experience peaks and valleys, better days than others. How do you turn those valley days into peak days?
Sure. How do you turn the valley days into peak days? Well, I think there's a couple key elements to that, and one of them actually comes from the world of sports. You'll oftentimes hear a lot of coaches talk about how you can never get too high and you can never get too low. I think maintaining that perspective of never letting yourself get overly excited about great news, never letting yourself get overly down about tough things, I think helps you keep you centered above all. And I think those of us that follow sports kind of understand that mentality the best. But also never losing sight simply of who you are. Because if you know who you are and you know everything you've overcome in the past, it helps center your future. I have known that no matter what challenges come my way, that nothing could be greater than the daily challenge of being a triple amputee. I've told you my story, and I know everyone here has a story. Everyone here has a story of adversity they've overcome, challenges they've overcome, tough times they've overcome. If you can always keep in your mind the fact that you are a survivor and that you are a champion and that you've survived tough days before, you'll survive any tough days that come your way.
Great. Well, here's another question for you, Alex. I'm sure there's been many, many times in your life where you've been forced out of your comfort zone. So based on your experiences, what are some things that you can recommend to our membership when it comes to getting comfortable with being uncomfortable?
Sure. The essence of being comfortable, being uncomfortable is really, I think, the essence and kind of the meaning of life. We look at challenges as bad things, tough things, things that we'd rather not face. But when we think about challenges as great things, things that really make us grow, things that really make us stretch, then we realize how much those things define us. A lot of people are surprised when I make this next statement, but a lot of people have asked me, would you rather have two arms and two legs? And honestly, my response is no. No, I'm glad that I was born the way that I was. I'm glad that I've had the challenges that I've had because it's shaped me as a person. It's given me character. It's given me even personality and given me points of humor that I know that I can lean on. It's made me who I am. Your adversity makes you who you are. And so whenever you think about the aspect of not being comfortable or embracing challenges that maybe come your way, as tough or as daunting as they may seem at first, realize that within adversity is opportunity, that every piece of adversity brings opportunity with it, and that we never grow through being comfortable or through having things easy. The growth comes through the toughness. I really believe that all of us were born for greatness and built for toughness. And if you can be comfortable being uncomfortable, and if you can embrace whatever adversity or challenges you may have, that's where you're going to see your real greatness shine through.
So speaking of embracing things, Alex, during your time at Notre Dame, how did students, your fellow students, friends, really embrace your challenges? And what recommendations might you have for our membership on how to educate their student athletes for embracing others, their teammates, other students in the campus community that might have those similar challenges?
Absolutely. There's a lot of kind of interesting nuggets there. Um, when I was an undergraduate at the University of Notre Dame, it was such an interesting time because the Americans with Disabilities Act, the ADA, had just become federal law. And so, as a freshman, I arrived when the ADA was first enacted, and the university still very much relied on feedback from students with disabilities as to how to make a campus accessible. So I am so glad that I came there at that time because I was able to make a contribution in terms of educating the campus community on what they could do to make a campus even more accessible for students that were going to be arriving in the future. What's interesting is that I found that some of the greatest allies that I had and that students with disabilities had, in fact, were student athletes. The student athlete population um, was among the biggest allies that we had as we pushed for building renovations, as we pushed for more campus accessibility, as we pushed for all of the things that helped make it a more inclusive environment. The student athletes related because many of them would become, say, temporarily disabled through injury, and many of them also understood the mindset of having to overcome challenges. It's what athletes do every day. It's what athletes do as part of their journey, as part of their mission. And so, because they know what it's like to overcome and to rise above, I think there was a special camaraderie with those of us that had disabilities where we just kind of had a great understanding with each other. So I would actually, as athletic directors and other administrators, um, I would really encourage you to tap into that. As you hopefully have seen through community service projects and anything related to community good. Student athletes oftentimes embrace that so much greater than possibly the greater community because it just taps into what they're already experiencing as athletes. And it kind of shows them oftentimes, they're so locked into sports and schoolwork and everything they have to do. I think it's also very helpful to broaden their horizons and to continue to show them a whole different perspective that maybe they didn't realize before. I'll also note that I mentioned earlier that over the summer, um, I created a charitable foundation, the Alex Montoya Foundation, in which we try to educate schools and teams and leaders on initiatives such as this and how to be able to take adversity and turn it into positive things so that there's better understanding. And if anyone would be interested in having me present to their universities or schools on these things, please let me know.
Awesome. Well, we have another audience question here that just came in too. How do you practice giving your mind rest when you need it? I know that we cannot be tough all the time. What rest mechanisms do you have so that you can continue to have the energy to overcome daily challenges?
Tequila helps a lot. I kid. Kind of. No, it's such an important aspect. Um, in addition to physical challenges, um, I'm a huge believer and advocate for mental health and mental health awareness. And I think it's a conversation that needs to be had more and more and more in this country and in this world. Is the aspect of mental health and mental wellness. And I have come to realize within my journey that not only are my challenges physical, but they absolutely impact my mental wellness as well. I do believe that the aspect of living in gratitude is a major part of mental wellness and being able to um, have that sort of relaxation that you mentioned, because I think it helps put your mind at ease. But I think for administrators specifically, I think remembering that um, the challenges that we have are something to be embraced helps with the mental aspect of it so that if we're okay with our challenges and we're okay with the adversities and we're okay with knowing that these adversities are going to make us better and stronger, it helps us with um, not necessarily thinking about them 24/7 or thinking about them in such a light that it's something that we must always need to be solving within our minds. We all need rest. We all need to put our minds at ease. We all need to put our mind at rest. And all of that is as great of a part of overcoming adversity as anything else.
So we have one more question for you, Alex, and then we'll ask that you, provide any closing remarks that you have before Bob closes us out. But this question might be an easy one. It might be a hard one. But who are your role models and why?
Sure. You know, it's really interesting because for me, I have certainly been inspired by my parents um, to um, come to this country and emigrate and live the American dream is not easy. And so the example that I have taken from them has really been very special to me and something that fueled me throughout my entire life. Um, I am also very much inspired by our first responders and our military members. Even though I was born with my disability, I am very aware of those that come into disability in service of our country. And so that is always something that very much humbles me and leaves me very grateful as well. Probably because I know of, the extra element of what they're going to have to overcome now if they've incurred some sort of physical disability. But honestly, the third one would be just anybody involved in sports. When I think about some of my favorite athletes, from Tony Gwynn out here in San Diego, um, to Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson, they all have this in common. They all treated their profession as more than just a profession. They treated it as their craft. And that's always inspired me because I recognize that whether I'm writing or giving a presentation or just living life every day, when you view your profession not just as a job, but as a craft that you are constantly trying to hone and improve and make a positive impact in the world with, then you realize your mission. And people that know their mission in life and know their role in life and know their role in really and truly making this world a better place, what could be better? And those are the people that have really inspired me.
Well, Alex, thank you. Your message was incredibly inspirational. Your comments to embrace challenges, the things that affect us all, adversity, turning those into opportunities. Those are things that as administrators, we need to do on a daily basis. Your comments about mental health. That's a big part of our business now, obviously with COVID, but really what our student athletes are going through. Think of those young people who can't play for that championship. Their seasons have been over. They're moved from fall to spring. All those things that weigh on our administrators today that you touched on that are so important. Again, your message was very timely, very succinct to everything that we're doing today. And all of us at NACDA, thank you very much for your time. And good luck to you, and God bless you and everybody as we go forward through the election process, through COVID, and can't wait to get to 2021. So thank you so much, Alex. Really appreciate your time, and thank you all for being with us today. Have a wonderful day and a good weekend.